He puesto vedere
Oh, there. Oh, yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, because it was, you know what happened? It said, but there's nobody watching yet.
Doesn't matter. Nobody's there. It's only me and you.
So nobody's coming. No, but I
Not
wanted
yet.
to say that this one person. Okay, I wanted to say that it gave me an error message when I was trying to go live, and then suddenly it said, "Hey, you're live!" Suddenly, so hello everybody, especially the two people that are there, and for the replay. My name is Monica Stoker, and I'm the author of the blog para aprender inglés, and we also have an academy where we teach English online and for private people and companies. And here with me another day is Craig William. And
hello.
So,
I'm Craig from, if you haven't seen me before, I'm Craig from mentioningles.com, where you can learn English for free. We have lots of free courses and material there. And we also have a free podcast if you prefer to listen while you're at the gym or walking your dog. And you can find that podcast at inglespodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Hello, Gemma. Hello, Alberto. How are you doing?
I wanted to say hello. Okay. I know your followers. They're always here. And I wanted to start with the topic today. Today's topic, I was thinking a lot about this because it can be very useful if you have to talk about the problems with the supply chain. Okay.
And there's lots of problems at the moment, so it's quite topical.
See, it's very topical. Topical. What is the meaning of topical?
It's everybody's speaking about it. It's a current topic. It's in the news. I spoke to a friend recently, I'll tell you about that later, who's living in the UK, and he's telling me about the current topic of problems with the supply chain and logistics. So we're going to look at
the difference between a hot topic and topical?
A hot topic would be very, very current and topical as well. So really, it's two ways of saying the same thing. If something is topical, it's in the news and people are speaking about it. And if it's a hot topic, it's very popular and everybody's talking about it.
So it's also a hot topic.
Yes.
So the words, I think the words that we're going to see today are not so difficult. I think most people see them, so know them, because there are many of them. I think they're Latin origin and also very standard words for international trade. And so most people see, like, for example, I'll give this to you. You can start with shipping company. It's very easy.
Shipping company, yes. A company that moves things from A to B. Now, that could be in a ship, or it could also be by rail using a train, and it can also be on the road using a vehicle. So the idea of shipping something from one place to another is moving it, usually in an industrial kind of way, because we're speaking about very big things. The verb is to ship, and you probably know the noun a ship, a huge big boat, but the verb to ship means to move something. And it's very, very common in the US. When you order something on the internet, they say shipping costs, or they're going to ship it on Tuesday. Whereas in the UK, you'll probably see we're going to send it to you, not ship it to you.
That's nice that you make that comment, because it's what we speak here is a combination of both Englishes, both type of languages.
Hi, Christine. Christine's arrived.
Oh, Christine, hi. Yeah, she left the hi. I wanted to say nowadays there's a main problem with shipping companies because there are not too many. Well, let me go into the next word, and when we talk about ocean freight, we'll talk about this. Okay, the next word is freight. This is a Germanic term, freight, freight forwarder, and the freight I think it means cargo. It's the same as cargo, but it's the Germanic word for cargo. So carga in Spanish is carga, so cargo or freight. And a freight forwarder is a generic term for any kind of, I think, any kind of company that does shipping. Can be through ocean, it can be through roads, or all kinds of shipping. It's a forwarder. Forwarder means to move, actually, no, right? To move, to go forward, ir hacia adelante. And in this case, it's funny because it's a noun, a forwarder. So somebody that moves cargo, that's a freight forwarder. It's somebody who moves cargo. And it's usually a very specialized company because you need to do lots of paperwork. And nowadays, much more with the UK, because there are all kinds of rules that change in the UK. Okay,
especially because of Brexit.
About this because of the Brexit. Okay, now we'll talk about that. Let me see the comments we get. Okay. Ana Jarandilla, I'm glad you mentioned this problem. Okay, we're going to talk about this.
Can you go back 1 second, Monica? I just wanted to say something about the pronunciation with freight, because the spelling's quite strange. But if you take away the F and the R, you get the number 8, and that's the pronunciation. So it's freight. Yeah, just put FR in front of freight. It's in front of 8, and you get freight. And also forwarder can be difficult. So forward, you can probably say quite easily, and then just add at the end. So forwarder, freight forwarder. Freight forwarder, 2 F's together, quite difficult.
Such a nice pronunciation. Okay, and I have another one for you.
Air freight, yes. As Monica said, freight is cargo and delivering cargo and moving things from one place to another. And if it goes by air, if you use a plane, it's air freight. And if it goes by sea, it's ocean freight. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I wanted to say something that happened to me. I have a student that works in a logistic company. It's online student, and they import their goods from Japan to Europe. And before the COVID, one container shipping was about 2,000, 3,000 euros. Oof. At this moment, is about 12,000, 14,000 euros. Okay, and if you read about it, it's because there's like a perfect storm, what they call a perfect storm. So many things that go wrong at the same time. So one of the things was the Suez Canal. Do you remember some months ago?
Yeah, there was a boat that was stuck and they couldn't pass.
It couldn't pass, so that blocked all the ships, and it took them several days to release that boat.
That's one thing that happened, yeah.
That one thing that happened. Another thing is the COVID, because with the COVID, the supply and demand, the balance completely was lost. There was no balance between supply and demand. And so a lot of companies had to stop, of course, sending things to, especially in China, in Asia, to Europe, and to the United States. But when the COVID started to be less of a problem, of a health problem, there was a surge in demand in the United States. A surge. So there was a lot of demand. Then suddenly there were many companies, I suppose, shipping companies that went broke. Only very few companies could do the shipping, like 4 companies, something like that. And then if somebody, I think Ana Jarandilla works in the logistic industry, so maybe she can make a comment or ask questions about that. And another thing is that they use, now we're going to see this word, huge vessels. Vessel. So a vessel is una nave, no? But it's actually the ship. They're very big, and you can only go to certain ports. Not all the ports can take those vessels because they don't have the infrastructure to manage the cargo. And that's another perfect storm, because suddenly there's a surge in demand, then the vessels only a few companies, 3 or 4 companies, and then the ports are very few ports that can do this, because you need then in the ports the dock workers.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's been a shortage. There's been a shortage of
Another word,
people.
shortage.
Yeah, if a shortage is the noun of people working in docks and ports. Now, let me see if I can remember the difference between a port and a dock. A dock is any place where a boat can arrive, but a port is more industrial. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Port
dock can be, yeah. But why
Yeah,
are they called dock workers then and not port workers? Because English is
because dock is the physical place where the
Yes.
boat arrives, but the port can also have offices. For
Yes.
example, my friend partner works in the port of Valencia with the Mansion Inglés partner of mine, the business partner. He works in the port of Valencia, but he doesn't work at the docks. He doesn't load and unload the vessels or the ships. He works in the offices. So the port is the whole area, including the offices, including all of the businesses that are connected to shipping. That's the difference.
So
there was a shortage of workers working at the ports, especially in the UK because of Brexit. I think many of the laborers, many of the people who worked physically with the lorries and the trucks at the port, lifting the containers on the boat, taking them off, they weren't necessarily British workers. They were EU workers who now need special permission to work in the UK. So obviously Brexit has had an influence, and the shortage of workers loading and unloading these boats.
Yeah, I asked this. Let me see. Okay, Anna she works in logistics, and there's another problem. Shipping companies are making lots of money because of these previous problems, so they do not want to go back to normal.
Yeah, that makes sense, Anna.
Yeah, imagine if you were charging 2,000, 3,000 per container, and now you're charging
3 or 4 times that.
14,000.
Yeah.
You're making a lot of money. And I read that there are only like 4 companies that do this. Imagine. Right. It's like a monopoly. There's only, also because it's difficult. For example, some big companies like IKEA or Walmart, they decided to get their own vessels because of this backlog, this problem of shortage of capacity to transport all the goods. So if you're a small company, you cannot do that, because how can you have your own vessel? No.
So Anna says they're making blank sailings. I'm guessing that means that the ships are sailing with no cargo.
Exactly. That's another. That's good, Anna.
The containers are empty.
They're empty. Yeah. And difficult to handle, and all kinds of problems. And on top of this is Brexit. Okay, let's continue, because the vocabulary is very easy, especially for people like Anna. So carrier.
This was also something quite difficult to pronounce. Carrier. There's a verb to carry. So very similar way. The noun carrier is something that carries things from one place to another. And we have a collocation, a freight carrier. So a freight carrier is a company that specializes in shipping, and they can directly handle or directly deal with your cargo, the thing that you want to transport or carry from one place to another. So you hear this word a lot. I'm sure Anna knows this collocation. A freight carrier is a company that specializes in shipping.
Yeah. Land, sea, or air is a generic term. And then we have cargo containers. And this is what we see everywhere. If you see the pictures, the news, when they talk about the UK, they usually show cargo containers, because containers is the same in Spanish, actually, is contenedores, and cargo is carga. So it's very easy to learn. The cargo containers are used to put all the goods inside them and transport them to another continent or another country. And and usually cargo containers, this is another problem, that they are huge. The vessels are big, the containers are much bigger, everything is big. Very difficult to manipulate this, very difficult, unless you have specialized people, specialized ports, no? And like Anna used the comment again, let me go back because it's difficult to remember. She said the expression was blank sailings. Yeah, blank sailings. So they go empty. They go empty, actually, the cargo containers, without the cargo. They just travel all over without the cargo, and they force the people to pay a lot of money for the cargo. And then there is inflation. What do you get after? You have two problems. You have inflation, and you have in the UK, many times they show pictures or videos with empty shelves. There's empty shelves. So what does it mean, empty shelves?
Nothing to buy. There's nothing to buy in the supermarkets.
Yeah, at the supermarket. I suppose not in every place, but in some places where it's difficult to get, no? So
yeah. Actually, I was talking to a friend yesterday who lives in the UK. He lives in London, a suburb of London, and he said it's not bad where he lives. He can buy petrol with no problem. Yeah, there's a queue. You have to wait. But when you see the pictures on the videos on the news, it's a disaster. It's like a zombie apocalypse. No, it's not. It's not that bad. Maybe in some areas where they're panicking, but in most places, according to my friends in the UK, it's not that bad. No.
Okay.
I want to say hello to Manuel, who's a friend of mine, just joining us in the chat. Good to see you here, Manuel.
Okay. Yeah. Manuel Garcia.
And Anna said, no, vessels don't call at all. I'm not sure what you mean there, Anna. Vessels don't call
I don't explain.
at all.
I don't know what she means.
Can you explain a bit more what you mean there, please, Anna?
Yeah, the next one is the difference between, you explained that one.
Truck and lorry. Yeah, that's very easy. Camión in Spanish. A truck is the American word, the American English word, and lorry is the British English word. And you get very long lorries where you have the cabin separate from the container. So you can detach the engine where the driver sits from the back. That's called an articulated lorry because it's articulated. It moves around and you can change the back. So there's a shortage of lorry drivers in the UK because of Brexit. Many of the UK lorry drivers were from EU countries. Of course, now they need special permission, and there's a bit of a problem getting people to drive lorries. They call the license an HGV license. It's a heavy goods vehicle license, and it's not that difficult to get, but you do need to train for it, and it is quite an expensive course to take to get the HGV license. But I heard that there are also problems in other European countries with lorry drivers because young people don't want to drive lorries. In Spain as well, I think they can't find younger people to do these jobs anymore.
Yeah, but the difference is that in Europe, you can move around without the need of the visa because this is free movement of goods and people. This is the principles of the European Union. But if you go to the UK, it's worse. It's worse because you need to apply for a visa and you need to, and besides, they give you only 3 months I think the Boris Johnson just said, okay, 3 months. I thought this is ridiculous. Right?
I think we should give Boris Johnson 3 months. If you can't solve the problem in 3 months, go home.
No, but he says there's no problem. There's a problem.
He never says there's a problem.
And also he says that the solution is to pay British people a higher wage, and then you solve the problem. You have no immigrants. And then that's why before we started, I was making a comment to Craig about the head of the trade union and the European Union, the trade union of, I'm going to go, truckers. I don't know. This is an American word, but I don't know if you use it in the UK. Do you use
British? We don't use it so much. British English speakers know the word trucker. We know what it means, but we say lorry driver. We'd say lorry driver.
Yeah, but you would say trucker.
But we know trucker. Yeah.
Yeah, trucker is very common word. A trucker, the head of the trade union, the head of the truckers, I think he's Dutch. He said, they got themselves into the shit. We're not going to get them out of it. So this is the trucker. So a lorry driver. He said lorry driver. And
we actually did a podcast about this. We did a whole podcast on long distance lorry drivers. It was podcast number 283. So if you want to go to inglespodcast.com/283, there's lots of vocabulary. We had a message from an American long distance truck driver, and it was a podcast episode with lots of vocabulary specifically about lorry drivers, truck drivers. Yeah. And the wages, how much money they earn as well. How much money they earn in different countries.
Small interruption here. Anna says, vessels are supposed to leave every week, but now they call 3 times a month or so.
Okay.
So what they're doing is they're creating themselves the problem by not going as frequently. Yeah, they just, because they got used to it, they said we can charge more money. I suppose that's the reason why they don't come so often, because it's much more money for them, of course. They're making a killing with this thing, with this problem, with the perfect storm.
Before we move on, sorry, just one thing. So we're using this word vessel when we speak about ships and shipping, but anything that holds water or liquid is a vessel. So I can say that this is a vessel for water. Any flask or anything that holds water is a vessel.
And no, what you were saying about the drivers, the lorry drivers, well, I was saying also that the main issue is that if I'm Polish, suppose I'm Polish, and I have to work in the UK, why would I go to the UK if I can move around? You think they pay more?
Yeah, for sure. They pay more. Okay. They pay more. And that's one thing we spoke about in the podcast. If you're a lorry driver in Germany, they pay you the best. Holland pay very well. And then the UK. So it's in that order.
Yeah, okay.
So if you're a lorry driver in Spain or Italy, you don't earn as much money. Or in Poland or Romania, you're not earning as much money as the lorry drivers in other countries.
If I can choose, because if I can choose and I can go to Germany, I'll go to Germany because it's much easier for me, because they're not going to ask me for papers like in the UK. No?
Right.
And exactly. That's the problem, because
that's the problem with Brexit.
Boris Johnson says only 3 months visa, and then you're kicked out of the country. That's absolutely reasonable that people say, no, I'm not going there because it's not convenient for me. It's very practical. It's supply and demand. At the end, it's supply and demand. It's the same problem. And if you don't have anybody else to do that job, well, you have a problem, but nobody wants to solve it.
There's an expression in English: you make your bed and then you lie in it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think the UK have made their bed with Brexit, and now they have to lie in it, or as your friend said, to lie in the shit that they made for themselves. But a lot of people think it's going to get better, and a lot of Brexiteers think that at the end of the day, eventually it's going to be better for the UK. We'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, it's not looking very good.
Yeah, we have to wait and see if it is any better. I don't know.
Let's wait and see.
Okay, now I have the words load and unload. Load and unload. I want to mention it. Load and unload for the people that are watching and probably replay is very easy. But I get often the confusion of unload or download because most people use the word download because they are used to do that on the internet, and that's what we do. We download usually an app, software, anything you download from the internet. But when you're physically speaking about goods that you have in a ship and you load, cargar is not upload, you load and you unload physically. Okay, so that's the difference. It's very easy, but there's a confusion because of course, most people are online and doing things, and the terms upload and download are very common. Or loading, even you can see it, loading when the software is still on, doing the task of loading. But they were not working in the shipping industry, so the terms load and unload become totally not familiar. So at the beginning, I remember when I started to learn English, it was load and unload, and suddenly download. There's another term,
and upload as well.
Yeah, and I'm thinking.
Also,
in Spanish, they use another word. They don't use for the internet is subir, bajar, descargar. Sí, es another. No es. It's the same. No, descargar un camión is unload. Yeah, it's the same term. Descargar. Let me
but
see.
I think for upload, they don't say cargar in Spanish.
Okay.
You'd say subir, I think. Anyway, one thing about load, because Anna used the expression load before when she was using an expression of quantity. She said shipping companies are making loads of money. So a load of money or loads of money is un montón, yes. A lot of things. So you can also use load as an expression for quantity.
And okay, and says Anna, because ships are full anyway. She continued to write about this problem. They only go 3 times. Yeah, if you wait for 2 times a month, of course the ship is going to be full because there are enough people. Okay.
Heidi's just joined us, and she's having problems downloading from the internet. Her connection, her connection's not very good. Sorry about that, Heidi. And exactly, we were just speaking about downloading from the internet. So yeah.
Speaking of loading and unloading, a friend of mine works as a stevedore or dock workers at Valencia. Cristina is from Valencia too, no? She says at Valencia. Which word is more common to refer to those who work in that field? I think it's dock worker, but maybe in the jargon.
I would say docker. D-O-C-K-E-R. A docker is a person who works at the docks. So stevedore is someone who loads and unloads boats. Is that correct?
I think it's in the boats. Yes, it's the same in Spanish.
So I think a docker, yeah.
Okay.
As like I said before, there are offices. There's clerical work and office work. We say white collar work, and that kind of person works at the port or in the port. Yeah. But a person who physically works with one of those big cranes, loading containers, unloading containers, a physical worker will be a docker. D-O-C-K-E-R.
I did not use the word, I did not add it in the list, the word crane, because it's
crane.
Crane is a very good word. Crane is grúa. Okay, for those of you who don't know this word, crane is you need a crane actually to unload the cargo because it's very heavy. You cannot just lift it and go and put it there. So because our containers, so if you don't have a special cranes, that's another thing. You need very big cranes to unload cargo. So that's what cranes do. A special kind of vehicles also. A special kind of vehicles.
Yeah.
So this is for you. This is the same in Spanish, but the different pronunciation.
Hi, Mamin. Good to see you here, sitting in the dock of the bay. Very good.
Okay. Yeah, that's the song. That's that's very nice.
I think Mamin should come in and join us and sing it for us. Come on, Mamin. Jump in and sing it for us.
But you say Mamin, but she has the name then to Dix, you know. But
yeah, Mamin's an old friend from the north of Spain. I've known Mamin for many years. Yeah.
Okay. So you have, these are also have become very expensive, do you know?
What?
This, what I put just now.
Yes. And I've got an interesting story that's connected to that last word you used, crane, because a pallet is usually made of wood, and it's kind of a small platform that you put things on.
Yeah.
So if you want to move things around a warehouse, which is an almacén in Spanish,
then
you usually put things on a pallet that you can then move around, and you can stack things in a warehouse. And to do that, you need something called a forklift truck. And I checked before the class, and my dictionary says montacargas. Is that right?
Montacargas, yes, montacarga. But in English, it
lifts it.
Yeah, it's funny because the word explains the shape, because it's like a fork.
A fork, and it lifts, so it explains the direction. And it's a truck because it moves with, and it usually works with diesel. So when you said crane, and I thought of the huge kind of tractors that they use in the port to lift the containers and put them on the ship to load and unload the containers. It's kind of a mixture between a forklift truck and a crane. It's something in the middle. They're very, very big, and they load and unload
the
containers.
This can move around, and the crane is static. It's only in one. So first they just unload, and then the forklifter can go to put it in a warehouse or to move it around. But the crane cannot do that unless it's I don't know. I have really, honestly, I don't have too much experience at ports.
Me neither, but I have experience with a forklift truck because I worked in a factory moving pallets and driving a forklift truck. And this is a true story. Until one day I was very tired because I'd worked for 10 or 11 hours, and we had electronic doors, huge electronic doors. It was a factory for vegetarian food. And I moved the pallets, that was my job, in and out onto the loading the lorries, unloading the lorries, arranging things in the warehouse. And I had something on the forklift truck to open and lower the door. So as I was coming along, I'd press the button, the door would go up, I'd go in, press the button, the door would go down. And of course, when you go in, you have to have the forks low. But I was so tired, I'd forgotten to bring the forks down, and the forks are up high. And as I went towards the door, I put the forks right through the door of the factory. And when I reversed, I brought down the whole door. And as that happened, my boss, the manager, walked out and saw me do it.
And you were
that was my last day.
Yeah, you were sad.
And then I became an English teacher. But that was my experience with forklift trucks. That's a true story.
There was a good, at the end, it was a good accident. It was not so bad.
It was thousands and thousands of pounds of damage, though. It was expensive.
Yeah, it was very expensive.
Yeah.
And but I was thinking, but it's not so uncommon if somebody is very tired. So many times these accidents happen because you're tired. Honestly, it's not. Then look, your friend says, "Oh my God, you're like an elf."
An elf. You have a lot of memories. Yes, when you live as long as me, you have lots of stories, Mamin.
Yeah. So but it could have been more dangerous, but it wasn't, because maybe sometimes you have really an accident. It was just an incident. Okay.
Yeah, it was a very, very expensive and very embarrassing incident. So yeah.
Inventory. This kind of word, for me, is the stock. What do you have in the warehouse? You have a stock. Okay, and it's the same word in Spanish. Actually, it has no real. It's not very difficult to remember this because it's the same concept. I think it's a Latin word. So you have the goods that you have in the store, and you said that in the UK, Craig explained to me that this is more an American word than a British word.
It's more used in the US. In the UK, we'd say stock take. So stock, as Monica said, is the what you have in the warehouse. It's the products, the goods, the things that you sell that you have in the warehouse. And to see and to calculate how much you have is called a stock take. So you do a stock take in the UK, but in American English, you take inventory. The same meaning, different words.
Notice the pronunciation, inventory, the opposite of inventory, because we tend to put the accent in the second part of the word, because in Spanish most words are like this. So it's the
or in American accent, inventory.
Yeah, well, I know, inventory.
Inventory.
You sound like a recording. It's very annoying when this accent is like a recording. No?
Listen and repeat. Inventory.
Yes. Okay. Gemma said that you told the story.
Yes, ma'am, in inventario. Yeah, very similar in Spanish.
No, yes, it's the same as inventario.
Stock.
But Gemma says that you told the story of the forklift truck.
Did I?
In the podcast.
Wow, you've got an incredible memory, Gemma, because I don't remember that. I don't remember telling that story.
Mamen said an elephant. Not an elf is another. The memory of an elephant, not the memory of an elf. I was thinking there's something wrong with this sentence, but I don't know why. I was thinking in Christmas, the elves. So thank you, Anna, for coming. Thank you. Anna is leaving. Okay.
Okay, bye, Anna. Thanks for your contribution.
Yes, it was a good contribution. Then this one is customs. For you, customs. What are customs? Customs. You have now. Yeah.
Well, we're not talking obviously about cultural customs, although that could be one meaning. The thing that the customs that you do in your country.
Yeah.
For example, it's a custom to celebrate Christmas. No, we're speaking about shipping and logistics. So customs would be aduana in Spanish, or the different processes that you have to complete when you want to transport goods from one country to another. And if you go on holiday, you have no problem with that word because you have to pass through customs when you go abroad.
Yeah, but one of the things that is a big achievement of the European Union that took about 2,000 years for Europe to do this is free trade, no? Which means that customs is almost unnecessary. It's very limited. Yeah. So basically, they remove customs from all the countries that are, especially the Schengen countries. Schengen is this group of countries where you can just go with your an identity card or passport, and you don't have to show anything, like if you bought whiskey or if you bought any item that is considered like that has to be taxed. There's customs duties also. Duties is the tax that you pay at the customs. And that was a very big contribution, I think, very, very good, because I remember in the past, it was like just going to the United States or going to other countries. Like at the airport, you had nothing to declare, and that was very bothersome because they opened your suitcase and they started checking what you had in there, like they do now with third countries, you know. Mm-hmm. Now, if you come from China, but in the EU, I think this is a very big achievement that you can just go like if it was the same country.
Yeah, I can remember before that when I used to travel to Spain on holiday, and I hid bottles of whiskey and Bacardi and packets of cigarettes in my suitcase because it was limited. I think you could have one bottle of spirits, two bottles of wine, and 200 cigarettes, and that was the limit.
Yeah, there was a limit.
And you had to hide the bottles in your clothes to get them through customs.
Yeah, but sometimes you got caught.
I never got caught. Yeah,
you never get caught anyway. But some people got caught.
I have a nice face. They didn't stop me.
And and you have to pay. Problem is that you have to pay, and
you have to pay the duty.
Yeah, and now duty is the name of tax, of the kind of tax that. And now in the UK we have the same problem. And with and because of not complying with Boris Johnson doesn't want to comply with the agreement regarding Northern Ireland. No,
Yeah.
it's
Do you
going
know
to be
what? Do you know
issue.
why he's saying why he doesn't want to comply? Did you hear?
I don't know. I don't know because I don't pay too much attention because I think he never wanted to comply by the beginning. He signed by with thinking, well, let's forget about this.
He's saying that Britain doesn't want to comply with what they agreed to when they signed Brexit because they felt they were rushed to take a decision.
Oh my God.
So they were rushed over, was it 7 years? Or no, 4 years, the whole thing? They were rushed at the last minute and they took a decision. So that's why they're not going to honor what they've signed, which is
the agreement, which is
pathetic.
going, I suppose, is going to create more chaos there.
Yeah.
And at the borders. Okay. Mons is saying that she cannot see us, cannot see you. What a shame.
Well, Mamin can't see us. It's probably better, Mamin, not to see me.
Okay. So, and Anna says to me, if you need any further ideas on problems we're having with shipping companies, just send me an email. There are many problems. Well, I know because I have one student that works in logistics.
Her email address is UPS, so maybe she works for UPS, which is a international shipping company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
next word.
Okay, next word was warehouse. This was for me, I think, because you did.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, warehouse, we already talked about it. Warehouse is a very common word, and it's almacén. That's it. The where is, I suppose, is goods, and house is casa. to keep it's a Germanic word, as you can see. Mm-hmm. So warehouses are necessary because you need when the shipping company brings the goods to the port. Many times you need to store the goods, many times, almost always, I think, before you distribute the goods all over the continent. No? So warehouses, they have located, they did, and the company I'm working for, that they import printers, they had to build another warehouse or rent or whatever in the UK for the special problem of Brexit. So they had to divide the warehouses. It's not anymore Europe. It's something, I think, located inside the UK. And in the past, it was part of Europe. Now it isn't anymore. So warehouses are everywhere. You need warehouses. Amazon, for example, here near where I live, you have a big warehouse where they put all the things that you order online and they organize it. Warehouse, that's the name. And for you, Craig, I have I think it's the last. No, we still have more. We already talked about this. Supply chain.
The supply chain, yeah. Chain is cadena in Spanish. And obviously when you move things and you transport goods from one place to another, there's a chain. There's a supply chain is where you go to the supermarket and you buy a packet of rice and it's computerized. And immediately when you take the rice off the shelf and you pay for it at the checkout and they scan the rice, a message is sent to the people the supermarket buys the rice from in Guadalajara or somewhere, and they have to send more rice. So it begins at the rice factory, then they have to contract the lorry or truck to transport it to the port and then ship it. So all of these logistics to get the rice into the supermarket is the supply chain. And the problems we're having at the moment, and I hope Anna's might not be listening, but I hope I'm explaining this correctly, Anna. That's the problem. At some point, the supply chain has been broken. Maybe it's the lorry driver, maybe it's the port, maybe it's the shipping company. But at some point, the supply chain isn't working, and that is why you may not find it easy to buy rice at Christmas.
Yeah. Well, rice is one problem, but there are many others.
For example,
But
exactly. Yeah.
in
Yes.
the
It's
UK. No,
many
but one of the
things.
things I read a story about this because this started with the COVID. This is true because this is why it's the perfect storm. Because it was interrupted. People were not buying things with the COVID because of the lockdown, no? El confinamiento. We had
Hmm.
that. But then when we return to a little bit back to normal, for example, what happens here is that I suppose I have a restaurant and I'm selling hamburgers, but these hamburgers come from Asia.
Or from Hamburg.
Uh, yeah, well, it can be anything, okay? But I noticed that there's a surge in demand. So one day, instead of selling 100 hamburgers, I'm selling 200. And then I said, I go to the supplier and I say, hey, give me 300 because just in case, thinking, just in case I have problems later and I don't have enough stock. So just to stock them, I'm ordering more than I really need. The factory at the same time thinks, oh, he's ordering two times more. Let's produce three times more.
Hmm.
So at the end, this is how you create a problem with the supply chain. They have to produce much more, and then everybody's doing the same. At the end, the Chinese factory cannot cope with all this, and also they have emissions because they have carbon dioxide emissions, and they have to stay within certain limits of emissions. Otherwise, they have to stop the production. And this
Yep.
happened already in China, that they were producing so much that they surpassed the amount of emissions, so the amount of pollution they can send to the air. So they stop. And so there are a lot of problems like this
And
related to
wasn't
this.
a similar thing happen with at the beginning of the pandemic with masks and hand gel because the hospitals didn't keep enough of these stored in their warehouses
Exactly.
in Spain, for example.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
when
In
they
Spain, there
ordered
was
them
not.
from
Yeah,
China, then the supply chain broke because so many
yeah,
countries were ordering them. And they do this because it's cheaper to order it when you need it and not store it in your business or in your hospital.
exactly.
To just keep enough for 1 week and then it's cheaper and just buy when you need. Of course, if you can't get the goods, if the supply chain breaks, then you have these problems.
Exactly. And then also, is this my turn? Yeah.
Yep.
Then you get the problem is a backlog. A backlog means um pendientes. O sea, this is the problem that you have. How do you call this in Spanish? Trabajos pendientes. O sea, accumulates things that you have not done. Okay, you have not sent that. So you start having lots of requests, lots of demand for one product, but you cannot serve those demands. So what you do is you start writing down on a list all these people have to be, all these items have to be supplied, and that list, this list I have here, is my backlog. So it's a register of what is pending still to go when you have a crisis of the supply chain. And now there is a backlog. That's what happened. If you go to buy a car, for example, there are several reasons. The problem with the chips, there are not enough chips, but also there's the problem of shipping. So when you go and you say, okay, I would like to buy the car, they tell you, no, you cannot buy it now. You have to wait for a month at least, because I have to order it and then they'll prepare it for you. And that's the backlog. So es como un atraso en los pedidos. I don't know exactly. I think there's a better word in Spanish, but I cannot find it. Maybe somebody knows.
A backlog is something I always have with my work. I always have a backlog of work. I'm constantly trying to keep up with a day-by-day basis of the work I'm doing, but I always have a backlog. I always have work that I should have done yesterday and I haven't done.
Yeah, and because of this backlog, look, Mons is saying Amazon has bought. I said this at the beginning. Not only Amazon has bought their own ships to do this, no.
Yeah.
But boats for me is something smaller. That's why I say ship. But the back, I'm going to say, when you're a big company like Amazon or IKEA or Walmart or, well, the equivalent in the UK, what is the big one in the UK that is a very big chain of supermarkets?
Sainsbury's, Tesco?
Tesco. Yeah, retraso. Yeah. Monse said, thank you.
Thank you, Mamen.
Yeah, that's exactly un retraso.
No, I'm not. Christine's asking if I'm a procrastinator. I am sometimes, Christine, a procrastinator, but I'm more a very, very slow worker and too optimistic of what I can do in a day. So every day, at the end of every day, when I finish this Facebook Live, I will write in my diary what I hope to do tomorrow, and I'm overly ambitious. So I can never do everything that's on my to-do list, and I have a backlog of work. Not because I don't do it, but because I overestimate and I'm a very slow worker. It takes me a long time to do things. I'm very slow.
But we are usually procrastinators when we don't like what we're doing. For example, I am a procrastinator with paperwork.
Me too.
I try to avoid it because I don't like it. And that's why. Then the last one we have here is for you, Craig, delivery time.
Delivery time. I think this is quite self-explanatory. Delivery time, the time that you have to deliver a product. So if you order something on Amazon, then they will give you a delivery time of 2 days or 3 days. Or if you have Amazon Prime tomorrow, and that's the delivery time, the time that they promise that they will deliver your goods.
That would be tiempo de entrega. Tiempo de entrega in Spanish.
And the problem, as Monica was saying before, is that with the break in the supply chain, the shipping companies are not meeting their delivery times. So there's this huge backlog that's building up, as Monica said at the beginning, that began with that big container ship in the Suez Canal. And then there was Brexit, and then
COVID, and before that was
COVID. Then was COVID, and then there was Brexit, and
then
problems finding the workers at the port. So China and everything is coming together, causing a backlog and a delay in delivery times. But here's my question before we finish here, for people watching and for you, Monica. Do you think there will be panic buying, especially leading up to Christmas, in a similar way that we had at the beginning of the pandemic? Will everybody be clearing, maybe with toilet paper, maybe with rice, but from the supermarket shelves, when everybody buys everything because they're panicking and they think they may not get petrol for their car, so they buy too much petrol? Do you think we're going to see
I think that might happen in the UK, but I'm not so sure.
Not in Spain?
Not in Europe. No, I don't think so, because
Mamen thinks so. She thinks it's going to happen. Yeah.
In here also, in Spain too. I don't know.
I think possibly it may happen.
Maybe, I don't know. People are crazy.
Yeah,
for sure.
So buy your Christmas turkey now. If you're going to cook turkey for Christmas, freeze it.
But there's always there's usually here in Spain is not turkey. The people buy fish and seafood. Usually is the most typical thing. But the price of shrimps or prawns goes up, skyrockets for Christmas usually.
Yeah.
And that's why it's good, not only because of backlog, it's also because of just simply because there's more demand, so the prices go up. So, or you just don't eat fish and seafood. So there are other options. Okay, let's go. Let's review. Let me see if there's we said I'll do one and you do the other one. Okay, shipping company for you.
Shipping company. We said to ship was the verb, and shipping company is the company that ships or moves things from one place to another, from A to B.
Freight and freight forward. Freight means cargo. It's the same. Germanic word for cargo. There's a fly bothering me here. Freight and Craig gave a tip here. 8, number 8. You know, that's the same. Freight. Forwarder. I say forwarder. He pronounces much better than me. Forwarder. Okay, this is the carrier. The same as carrier. Okay.
Air freight, yeah, because things go by road, by rail, or by sea. So if they're going by air, it's air freight, and if it's going by sea, it's ocean freight, or it's going by train and it's rail freight.
Then carrier, from the word to carrier, is a company that carries things around, which is the same as shipping company. It's just more technical thing.
And cargo containers, cargo is carga, I think, in Spanish, and container is contenedor. So it's the huge metal boxes that they load and unload on ships to move cargo or stuff or things from one place to another.
Then we have truck and lorry. Truck is American and lorry is British, English. So that's the same. Camión. Okay. And then we have the word for you.
A trucker or truck driver is an American English speaker driving a truck over there in the US, and a lorry driver is a British English term. And at the moment in the news, we're hearing about a shortage of lorry drivers in the UK.
Port or dock workers. And you also say docker. You were explaining to Christine, I think docker. So somebody who works in the port, and the main task is to upload, I was going to say, to load and unload.
You're a digital victim. You're a victim of the digital world.
Digital, no. To
download
load
from the
or
chip.
Unload. Okay, good that I made that mistake, because they shouldn't make that mistake. Okay, that is for the digital world. For the real world is to load and unload. So these dock workers move the cargo around the port. No, the dock. The dock is part of the port. Okay, now we have the word vessel.
Vessel is two meanings. It can be anything that holds liquid. And in the meaning today, speaking about logistics, it's a ship or a large boat, a hollow container used to hold liquid, like a tanker, for example. A tanker is a vessel for fuel or petrol that moves from one place to another.
Okay, then we have what I just said. Remember, load and unload for cargo.
I really like you spoke about pronunciation. You pronounced that perfectly, because many Spanish speakers seeing two vowels together would say load, and you pronounce it absolutely perfectly, Monica. Yeah, load.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we have
pallets, usually made of wood, and it's a small smallish platform, a couple of meters square, that you have in warehouses to move goods from one place to another using a forklift truck, a pallet.
Inventory. The inventory is not to invent, it's just inventario, the same as in Spanish. No problem with that. It's the British word for this, because this is more American. What is
stock?
The British stock? Just a stock. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Stock.
Yeah.
Stock. Then we have for you
customs, aduana. So when you move things from country to country where there's no international agreement, like the EU, for example, you have to pay customs duty, because countries have different customs.
Countries that's regulations.
Tariffs.
Tariffs. Yeah,
that's the word.
Yeah,
tariffs. Countries have different tariffs, so you have to go through customs and you have to pay those tariffs when you transport goods.
Okay, warehouse, almacén. I go quickly. Supply chain,
going from the place where something is manufactured or made to the shop where you buy it. There's a long chain of transportation and logistics that get things from A to B.
Backlog is retraso.
And delivery time is the time it will take to get your rice from where it's made or picked in the field to your supermarket shelf. So the time it takes, fecha de entrega.
Okay, so thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, Christine. So loyal.
Thank you, Gemma. Thank you, Mami, and good to see you. Good to see
and the rest
Manuel.
of you. And
Christine.
Just remember to visit Blog para Aprender Inglés or Blog del Inglés. And if you need English classes, just contact us. And also, great.
Mentioningles.com is where you'll find free courses and lots of material to help you improve your English. And we also have a podcast at inglespodcast.com. We're working on a newsletter at the moment that's going to be released for November, that's going to speak about Black Friday and other things connected to sales. So it kind of connects to what we've been speaking about today.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.